Hello, thanks for watching today. This is the Palmetto Patriot for SLMnews.com. On the 16th of September, I was interviewed by Daniel Miller, the leader of the Texas Nationalist movement, on his podcast. We talked about some important issues, and I want to share as much of that interview as possible with you here. To check out the audio for the entire interview, go to our website at slmnews.com.
It always does us good to get a perspective from outside of Texas, just to remind us that we are not alone. And I first found out about this gentleman through various videos that he produces and puts out on the web about secession, and particularly from a decidedly Southern perspective. And so, I got a message from him earlier this evening and thought, I got to have this guy on. So I want to introduce to you guys Michael, also known as the Palmetto Patriot. Good evening, sir.
Good to speak with you, sir. How are you doing?
It's good. We had Dr. Naylor on bringing the Vermont accent, and tonight we got the Southern accent, so we're working our way around.
I hear you.
Let's talk about the Palmetto Patriot now. Like I said in the intro, you're cranking out the videos.
Well, I'm trying to do what I can. I'm out there trying to promote, the ideas of liberty and the ideas of Southern nationalism, the Southern identity, Southern culture, trying to, the importance of protecting these, especially in the modern world.
So South Carolina, of course, has a rich tradition dealing with secession.
Well, absolutely. South Carolina was the first state to leave the Union. We left it in 1860. All the other states left in 1861, and South Carolina was the only state to vote unanimously to leave the Union. We held a secession convention and did it that way. It was a little different than some of the other states how they did it, but we voted unanimously to leave the United. Then we were invaded and forced back into the United States, unfortunately.
Well, let's talk about, and with a rich tradition of secession like that, what are you seeing going on today in South Carolina?
Well, there's a couple of different trends, I would say, and if you look at them, they seem to conflict. On one hand, the area where I come from is probably predominantly inhabited by people from the Northeast, unfortunately. My family's lived. My family has lived in this area now for since colonial times. That whole thing about go west, young man, we really never took that to heart. So we've been there from the beginning, but we've been kind of inundated with people who have very different views on life and government than we do. At the same time, you're seeing a lot of the local people kind of become more hardcore.
Well, given kind of what's been going on recently, I know that here in Texas, after Governor Perry came out and made the statement about secession and about the oppressive federal government, we definitely saw a big bump in our membership. Are you guys out there in South Carolina seeing an increase in interest in the whole idea of secession?
To be honest, I've been in Europe for a long time. I'm just back in my country in South Carolina just now for less than 2 weeks. So since I've gotten back, I've trying to, get a feel of things. Just last week I was at a meeting for the League of the South. I'm trying to organize an anti-feds rally here in my town coming up in about 2 weeks. So there's things going on. But sadly, a lot of people in South Carolina work for the federal government now, and that's one thing that may hold us back. A lot of folks still believe in secession. If you believe the polls that they put out a few years ago, more than 20% were ready then, and I think now that Obama's president, that a lot more support secession, because this is an overwhelmingly conservative state.
Do you get a feel of anything in Europe about the U.S. secession movements?
I was over there for a few years, about 4 years now, I guess it was. And when I would bring up that, they were just amazed. Of course, I was dealing mostly with government people, the job I had over there. But they were really amazed. They couldn't believe it. But the more I talked, I guess the more the light bulb, lit up for them, and the more they realized that the United States is not a monolithic empire the way it may seem to foreigners. That there's a lot of divisions, a lot of different cultures, languages, and peoples, and we're one of them.
Yeah, from my ear, it's very hard to understand a Bostonian.
But it's not really that we just despise all these other people, but we have a different culture and a different view on government.
In your videos, you talk a lot about the federal government and how oppressive it's become. How in the time that you started doing this, I mean, have you seen any kind of sense that that's going to let up, or do you anticipate that it's just going to get worse?
No, the nature of government is to grow. Government is essentially, it's like a beast, and the more you give it an inch, it's going to take a mile. And maybe that sounds extremely, anti-government or libertarian or whatever you want to call it, but that's the way I view it. Government is essentially the enemy of liberty. And Thomas Jefferson, he said that government is best, which governs least. And I believe that. And the federal government, it operates a global empire. They have more than 800 foreign military bases. They're propping up numerous governments around the world, involved in the internal affairs of almost every nation on this planet. And I saw that in Europe, and it's painfully obvious what a beast this government has become. And I don't see it getting any smaller unless we just force our way out of it.
Actually, that echoes the sentiments of Mr. Hobbes, doesn't it? The Leviathan?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So, from your perspective in South Carolina, what role do you think in the overall scheme of the breakup of the United States? What overall role do you see Texas playing in this?
Well, I hope you lead the way. Like the lady was saying, a lot of people are sort of looking to Texas to lead the way. Really what I think will happen is that if Texas or Montana or Vermont or New Hampshire or whichever state goes first, that's going to be it. It's going to be like pulling the plug, and a lot of states are going to run out. That's my own personal feeling, and hopefully South Carolina is right there as well.
Well, I think South Carolina has a history for it, and given what I've seen, that they will be there beside us when we do go, and I look forward to that day. Well, one last thing, I want to ask you before we move on into our second hour. What do you see that people on an individual level can do? I mean, you just decided to crank up and start generating videos, and you've got a blog going. What can the individual out there do that is wanting to promote freedom and independence?
Well, really, there's no limit. What we need is a lot of local activism. As nice as it was over the weekend or so to see that big march in D.C., it's always great to see people denouncing the feds, don't get me wrong. But as nice as that was to see, really what we need more than that is local activism, working with your neighbors, rebuilding communities. That's where it has to start, in my opinion, on the local level.
Well, you sure don't want to leave it up to FEMA.
I'm sorry?
You sure don't want to leave it up to FEMA.
No, that's right. Well, you don't want to leave it to the feds in general. I mean, the feds are our enemies. They don't believe in liberty, and they don't believe in self-determination or self-rule. And they sure like to steal your money. And, I'm tired of that, personally. And, like I'm organizing an anti-feds rally in my state. I think that everyone can do that in their town. They can organize little rallies. They can start pressuring their local representatives. I think it's pointless to pressure your federal representatives. And let them know exactly what they think about the federal government. And, I think that's where it'll start.
Well, and I think what you're saying is definitely valid. Of course, we encourage everybody down here in Texas to join the organization because we've got to produce an organized effort. But exactly what our buddy the Palmetto Patriot is saying is true. You got to get active on the local level.